and it turned out to be the stable the baby Jesus was born in, and the best baby cradle of all. Candy let the expectation build. "And then," she said more softly, "a little while after that, the woodcutters came for the third tree, and one of them said, 'This tree will make a fine cross.' And the little tree cried most of all, but it ended up as the cross that Jesus hung on, and it's still standing today, pointing to God. You should always remember," Candy concluded solemnly, "that what we are is not what we plan for ourselves, but what God plans for us." It was the 13th of June, 1980, the beginning of a punishing, oppressive Texas summer, and Candy Montgomery had arrived at the United Methodist Church of Lucas, Texas, a little before 9 that morning. As soon as she pulled onto the gravel lot, 2 doors of the old white family station wagon flopped open, and the children piled out and ran inside. Ian, her baby, went his own way, but Jenny and her best friend Alyssa Gore stuck together, inseparable as only 6- and 7-year-old girls can be. It was the last day of vacation Bible school, a mixed blessing for the dozen or so mothers who reported for duty that morning. On the one hand, it would be a celebration for those who had taught and shepherded the children all week. Their reward was to be a noon luncheon in the old sanctuary. On the other, they would be more than happy when it was over. Even though the school ran only 5 days a year, and only in the mornings at that, it was such an inflexible schedule, requiring carpooling, refreshment preparation, babysitters, and lesson planning, that it was all the women could do to get through the week. The final day brought additional burdens, what with the cooking to do and a special puppet show for the visiting parents. More than one of them had joked about the graduation falling on Friday the 13th. Candy Montgomery had 100 other things to do besides. At breakfast, the kids had all badgered and begged until she gave up and said that yes, perhaps Alyssa Gore could spend the night again that evening, even though they usually didn't allow the girls to sleep over 2 nights in a row. And yes, she would ask Alyssa's mother whether Alyssa could go to The Empire Strikes Back that night with the Montgomery family. But the changed plans meant that Candy's driving strategy for the day would have to be rearranged. In the distant suburbs of Dallas, as Collins County was known, the success of an entire day could revolve around a housewife's efficient use of the car. The extra night would mean accepting the responsibility for Alyssa's afternoon swimming lesson in Wiley, in addition to the other errands in various outlying towns. The station wagon needed gas in Allen. She wanted to help with the luncheon in Lucas. She needed to get to the store to buy Father's Day cards in Plano, and she had promised to lend a card table to her best friend Sherry, who had relatives coming for the weekend in Fairview. 5 errands now in 5 different towns, the price of living in the country. No telling when she would have time to take care of it all. Now Alyssa had told her that her swimsuit was still at home, which meant driving all the way to Wiley to get it from Betty Gore. First came Bible school. As soon as she arrived that morning, Candy grabbed her purse and headed over to the parsonage. Reverend Adams would want to know that she had finished the phone lists for her committee. She didn't call him Reverend, of course. She had never been able to call him anything except Ron, perhaps because he was only 25 years old, perhaps because the Methodists of Lucas had never stood on any kind of ceremony. She knew Ron wouldn't be at the Bible school program that day. She suspected Ron didn't even like the Bible school. It was frivolous, something the women did. Poor Ron. Somewhere behind that head full of building plans and budgetary procedures and the arrogance of a young man in his first pastoral appointment, there might be a nice guy. Ron would never show it, though. Candy told Ron about the lists, and he grunted his approval. Then she bustled into the sanctuary just as the children were bowing their heads for Betty Huffine's first prayer. Candy had saved the 3 trees for the last day of school. It was a special story for Candy, a modern parable she had picked up at the Methodist annual conference in Dallas that year. Candy had been the church's lay delegate for the past 2 years, a job she accepted for reasons that had little to do with Methodism, but a great deal to do with the feelings of warmth and security and belonging that this little church by the roadside gave her. It was a place where people could have religion without being religious, a distinction in her mind that separated Lucas from the narrow-minded Orthodox Presbyterians of her childhood. She had never spoken about these feelings to anyone except Jackie, the woman who had pastored the church before Ron, but it all came down to one word: love. All Jackie had ever